welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle Albers, and today I have Sam Franklin of Intuitive Coaching with me. Welcome, Sam.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. You and I have only connected, what was that, in October, I guess, probably.
hmm Yeah.
And I just love the way you show up in the world. I love how every bit of information that I see from you on social media or even the conversations that we have, you have this is my perspective, but you have this calming, grounding, really mindful and intentional way of showing up in the world, which I very much appreciate.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. It's always great to hear how other people perceive me. Just because when we're going through the world, we don't really know. We're just like, this is how I want to show up in the world. Like, is that actually what's being communicated? And so it's nice to hear because I do try to be really intentional with like how I show up.
Yeah, and it seems easy. I know it's not always easy, but
Yeah.
it must be, I guess, again, my perspective is it must be part of a really deeply like your authenticity because I feel like the way I show up in the world, being really, really sensitive to energy, if it wasn't, I would feel that, which is part of the reason I find you so refreshing in like the chaos that is the world. It's just such a lovely thing to connect with someone who, like, their authentic self is intentional, mindful, grounded, wise, even. I would say wise.
Mm. Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that I think I've always been like that, but also I think my journey from in teenage years when I was first coming to terms with my sexuality and coming out as queer, I think that really set the precedent for me of being like, well, I guess I just got to be myself. I mean, I didn't have to, but it was really, really painful not to. And then I was like, well, if I'm already going against the grain, then like let's just keep adding on to this authenticity. And then was I exploring my gender and realizing I was gender fluid, that added another layer. And so now I've just been like, let's just figure out who I am. And then I guess just try to be like that in the world.
I love that you went there because that was my next. I was like, will you talk about your journey? Like, so you basically just said authenticity has always been part of how you've shown up. And then it just got
Mhm.
more and more layered the deeper you went into discovering and uncovering who that really is. Will you
Yeah.
to say whatever you want to say about that? I just think that's such a beautiful thing. So many people struggle with that.
hmm Yeah, it's when I'm looking at, I'm interacting with kids, there's such this like beautiful thing of they're just themselves, and then sometimes this is for me an added layer of sadness of knowing that the world is going to try to change them.
Mm.
And, when I look at like my niece and nephew, like my nephew is 4, my niece just turned 2. And so they're at that age where they're still themselves. But my nephew's starting to get messages. Or, I mean, they both are, but I think my nephew is already starting to kind of experience that. And I think through of like, what is he going to be like when he's a teenager and the world has told him like how to be a boy and how to be a man. Um, and so when I think back to my younger self, like I was just very free and very goofy and silly. And that started to change at some point. I started to kind of close up because I was getting messages about that. Um, and I was very gender fluid when I was younger. And then I started to like understand what the world was expecting of me, of how to show up, how to dress, how to behave. And so then that started to again shrink in and kind of like become what I thought other people wanted of me. And then all of that just kind of cracked open when I started realizing I was queer and I was falling in love with a girl for the first time. And we were dating in the closet and all that stuff. And then I really had to just like face all of it for the first time, which was hard, but in hindsight was really helpful to me in general.
Yeah. That I feel like that's such a hard thing to do. to
hmm
to go against the grain. I mean, I feel like it's where I'm happiest, but I think it's just because my me isn't necessarily with the grain. And so I'm happiest not because I'm going against the grain. It's not because I'm a rebel. It's
hmm
because that's my truth. But to get to
hmm
a place where you feel okay with your truth is tricky.
Yeah, that's definitely not easy. You make a good point. Like that's like when we light up, like those are the things that really matter to us. That's who we are, but we have to do that in a world where that's not always welcome. So there is like a an understanding of like there's going to be maybe consequences depending on how much I'm going to go against the grain, but it leads to more like internal joy.
Yeah. So now I'm curious about because you do Akashic Records and angel
Hmm.
readings and all those beautiful spiritual practices that spiritual is my world and I feel like what equally kept me stuck for a really long time, but then also offered me freedom once I discovered my own practice and what that might look like for me. So I'm curious about Akashic Records, angel readings, whatever else you do, and how that played into your journey of like, were the Akashic Records part of you? I mean, it sounds like you uncovered and got really like you before you discovered the Akashic Records, but like what led you there? Because like a
Hmm.
lot of people, what leads them there is their pains and their like stuckness and all of the challenges in the world. So I'm really curious about like what led you to Akashic Records and angel readings and your spiritual practice.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it was just like another layer of authenticity and like reconnecting with myself. Like I'd already done a lot of work of who I was, but then it really changed. In 2022, I lost someone who was really close to me, and so I had this, and he was only 28. He was so young and younger than me, and it's not the first person I lost who was younger, but for some reason that really shook me, and I looked at my life and I'm like anything that I'm doing that I'm not happy, like, why am I even doing it?
Mm.
Like, life is just so short. So, like, what's the point of waking up and doing something either for work or in relationships or just like trying to be someone I'm not? Like, what is the point if like we're just not going to live very long or, who knows how long we have? So that really led me to, well, why don't I just like be myself even more? And then also led me to like a spiritual crisis of like, what happens to us after we die? And I looked into near death experiences and all sorts of spiritual stuff. And I came across Amber Meyer, who introduced us. And I joined her academy and for my own healing. And then I was like, wow, this stuff is so cool. And I would love to do this. And it felt like the missing piece of my healing work. And so then I was like, okay, now how do I come out of like the spiritual closet? Because now I'm going through the same thing where like I'm afraid of what are people going to think. And um, it's going to change how people see me and also like how I move through the world.
Yeah. So so you started it with was only a personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then how far into it were you before you were like, oh no, this is not just, you know what I mean? It's like I had that same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not doing this for anybody else. This is for me. And it's like, oh yeah, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean it's so I don't even know when it changed. I thought about that recently because I was like, it's so wild to think that I went into it being like, this is just for me because feels like such a part of my calling. Like, how could I have like not even thought about that? But in my mind, when I joined Amber's Academy, I was like, I'm not very intuitive. Like, I don't know that I have a lot of gifts. So I don't know how this is going to go. And then I don't know when it changed, but I always decided I was going to do the full certification because I'm someone like, if just achieve the highest. So I'm going to go for the certification. And then when I started, I think it was when I was working with like my friends and family, because you had to, do readings on a certain number of people to get the certification. I was like, wow, I really love how this feels. I love sharing this space with people. I love seeing how it impacts them. There's even like years later, my friends will come back, be like, God, that image that you shared with me, just like it sticks with me. And, I don't know if you experience this in your readings, like after I'm done, it kind of goes away. It's like a
Oh
track.
yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, tell me about the thing that I said,
Yeah.
all those years ago that stuck with you. That's great.
Well, so for me, I started my journey in 2011 and over time I've really learned some kind of just like things to notice or that really scream authenticity to me. Maybe that's not the best way to say it, but like so
Mm-hmm.
you saying that you forget about it right away. I'm like, yeah, it's because it's not yours. You're a channel. You're
Mm-hmm.
not taking something that isn't yours and hanging on to that energy because if you were, you wouldn't feel super great. And so
Mm-hmm.
right there when you say that, like, yeah, it comes in and it goes out. It's not mine. They receive it or not, up to them,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not yours to hang on to. If you did, you wouldn't be well. I just really
Mm-hmm.
believe that. I think if we carry everything that like that we as channels open to, that's a problem. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and sometimes I think people think it means I don't care or like,
Yeah.
like, oh, you don't care enough to remember. How can you not remember that? It meant so much
Yeah.
to me. It's like, well, because it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I love that you're like, remind me, what did I say? Because I get that a lot. It's like, oh, that thing you said like really, really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And I've carried it for, 7 years. And I'm just like, what did I say? That wasn't, I didn't say it. I mean, it came out of my mouth, but it wasn't my words, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't
It was,
like it didn't originate in me. It originated
right.
somewhere else and then it came through me, which is different sometimes in therapy, because I'm also a therapist. And so I think that was something that I noticed that I had a lot of feelings about because in therapy, I remember so much of what people say. So, like, we're 2 years into the work together and I'm like, hey, what you just said there reminded me of what you said, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, wow, like you have a great memory. And so I had prided myself on like remembering all of these details. And then I was starting to do this intuitive coaching work. And then I couldn't remember like most of the details. And so I felt like because my therapy clients thought that was like me caring, which I do. And I do care about my coaching clients. But I was like, oh gosh, are they going to think that I don't care because I don't remember it?
Yeah. So will you speak a little bit about that? Because that is that confusing for you? Or are you really
Mhm.
good at like the wall between, I don't know if I love that, but like
Mhm.
therapy and coaching? Because they're very
Yeah.
different, even though
Mhm.
the results or like the intentions might be similar or what the or the
Yeah.
goals.
Yeah. I think of it as like a Venn diagram, like there's definitely overlap. I think what's hard is I have to keep it so separate because of my license. And I wish that there was a way to merge it more. I mean, the coaching space is the way I try to merge it, but there are still things that I can't really go there or do in that space because of my license. And then I try to stay open in the therapy space to receiving any intuitive messages and just like trying to figure out how do I weave it into the session without being as direct in my coaching space where I'm not like, what I'm seeing or what I'm hearing or the message that I'm getting. I'm just taking in the information in the therapy space and seeing like, oh, what can I do about this? Or what is this telling me about this client? Which I realized I was kind of always doing. I just didn't realize it was happening before all of this spiritual work.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about like, now I'm curious about who's drawn to your spiritual
Mm-hmm.
coaching versus
Mm-hmm.
who's drawn to therapy. And I'm guessing that you probably can't overlap them because of your license, right? Like you can't have a therapy client and be like, hey, I do this Akashic Records thing. And like, so you
Mm-hmm.
have to really stay in those separate tunnels, so to speak. Is
Yeah.
that,
And one of the downsides is like there's times when I'm with therapy clients and I think that they would be open to that. And I think it would like jump our work so far ahead to be able to do one session, intuitive session, but I can't offer that to them. And so, I mean, I know other people and I can refer them to that, but we've already created this trusting relationship. And
yeah.
so that's just like frustrating not to be able to do that. And then, yeah, once someone's in a coaching space, they're there. Once they're in the therapy space, they're there. But again, there's some overlap because as a therapist, I work with healing from spiritual abuse and religious
Mm.
trauma and like being your authentic self and sexuality and gender. So very much in some ways kind of similar to my coaching work.
Yeah. Now I'm diving into Akashic Records. Can we just talk about because
Mhm.
I've had podcasts with guests on before and talked about Akashic Records, but I always love to hear. I'm a big believer in learning from as many people as possible because we all have our own unique way of showing up within the practices that we're here for, I guess I'll say it
Yeah.
that way, for our
Yeah.
purpose. Will you speak about Akashic Records and how you work with them and
Mm-hmm.
angel guides too, however you want to, but just talk about like that side of things if you're open to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something that took me a little bit to figure out of how do I weave this in a way that feels genuine to me and not like how someone else is doing it. Um, and so I found that it felt more like coaching, which is kind of why I called it that because it's a conversation. So what I do is I open the records before the session starts or in the beginning. And then they get asked questions, but then we dive into a conversation because as they're speaking, I'm getting more messages. And I kind of I set the intentions in the beginning of like, whether it's the Akashic Records or angels or spirit guides or crossed over loved ones, like whoever wants to come in for this person's highest good, I welcome in. So I only say where it's specifically coming from if that feels really important to whoever's giving me the message. Otherwise, I just kind of say they, and it's just like this whole spirit team. And so I'm getting messages, I'm sharing what I'm seeing and hearing, and then we're chatting. And then I might weave in, my therapy background, education information, and do some talking about that and like concrete tools. So it's like a blend of stuff.
And the Akashic Records, what is the purpose of opening them? Like, what are they?
Yeah. So the souls, like the Library of the Souls Journey, Souls Records. And so um, it adds another layer of information or depth of information. I can definitely get a lot of information in other ways, as I'm sure you know. But that just kind of, I think, expands the information that's accessible.
What I love about the Akashic Records specifically, and I'm not trained in Akashic Records. I mean, I'm intuitive and sometimes I get past life stuff and all that kind of thing, but I'm not
Mhm,
like specific to Akashic Records.
mhm,
Maybe it'll come someday. Maybe it'll be a training that I decide to take, but I'm really
mhm,
trying to be present and listen to what's here right now versus just
mhm,
adding more. But what I love about Akashic Records and what they offer is I find that when I'm working with clients or even just on my own journey, I'll just leave clients out of it, my own journey, if I can understand, and this might just be how I tick, but if I can understand where it's coming from, like this is a
mhm,
pattern built from A, B, and C in
mhm,
this lifetime, that's
mhm,
really helpful.
mhm,
And if I can go back and find layers of like, oh, this isn't just this lifetime, girl. This is
mhm.
this
Yeah.
is like lifetimes. There's something
Mhm,
about that that makes me go, oh, okay. A, this might take a little more doing for me to break this pattern because I've been doing it
mhm,
for, lifetimes. And
mhm,
then B, it just gives me more information. And there's also some grace that comes with it for me because
mhm,
I'm not, I tend to lighten up on myself if I know that, like, oh, I built this pattern before I even came into this lifetime.
yeah.
So I think there's some grace in that. Do you find that people like find comfort knowing, like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Now I'm not crazy or I'm not normal or I'm not, all these words that we use with ourselves that are unkind and untrue even.
Yeah, definitely that happens. I mean, and I noticed that to some degree in therapy work, but this kind of takes it deeper. So when we're just exploring childhood, that's it's another kind of experience that people have of like, oh, that's why I am the way that I am because of these experiences in the past. And so there's can hopefully be more compassion and understanding. And then you add another layer of, and that was also a pattern that showed up in this life and that life, and you've carried it in. And so um again, it like takes away the shame, like you're saying, of like, it's not my fault that these things happen, or it's not my fault that I ended up being this version of myself. And I mean, it is my responsibility to heal, but it kind of explains things. And I think it takes away people's shame and anxiety when they like understand where things come from.
Yeah. So when you do Akashic Records, do you call them angel readings too? Or are they separate things?
I just call them intuitive readings. So basically, like
Okay.
welcome in any intuitive
Yeah.
stuff. Hmm.
Beautiful. Do you find, like, I'm thinking about, I'm trying to walk down a path to help our listeners, right? To
Hmm.
understand like what this might look like, but also how they might be able to help themselves just in like what they've already learned on their journey, right? I think we're always, maybe always is a strong word, but I think most of us are curious about like why we show up the way we do or why we feel stuck or especially when it's hard. And when it's really hard, maybe we go beyond curious and just go to stuck and despair. But there
Hmm.
is a spot just before that where we're just curious and we just want to understand so that we can change something. Is
Hmm.
there like a okay, we found out this thing and now the angels come and tell us like what's next or how we can support ourselves or how do we clear it? Because the Akashic records give
Hmm.
the information, but it feels to me like every Akashic record reading I've ever had isn't just like, oh, this happened in this lifetime. This was your soul's journey and that's it. It feels like it also comes with information of, and here's what might help.
Yeah. And that's something that I find really, really important in any work that I do because I want people to feel empowered. I think knowledge and insight and awareness is super key, but then there's the action
Yeah.
steps, like the aligned action. So it's here's the insight, here's where it comes from. Then if I get a sense that it makes sense, we'll bring in some angel healing. So cut cords with things from the past, core beliefs, relationships, clear that energy. Maybe there'll be some healing around replacing limiting beliefs with supportive beliefs, or if there's something that's stuck in a chakra. So some type of angel healing, and I just witness it and just kind of say what's happening. And then we go to, and then how do you not make that grow back, that energy cord, or
Yeah.
how do you not make it go back? Because this is great and you're feeling great after the session. But if you don't do things differently, things are just going to kind of like a boomerang just come back.
Yeah. I think I think people tend to get like, I don't know. I was going to say discouraged or like really frustrated when it does come back. And I think I just want to make a key point that yes, we can give ourselves information or receive information from a master healer, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
And it's not uncommon for it to come back again and again, but it comes back differently. It's like
Mhm.
sometimes it just takes us more than one round of shifting that energy. It's like sometimes you can't do it all at once. And it doesn't mean you're failing, and it doesn't mean there wasn't help offered, and it doesn't mean that it's not working. It just means that so many of my clients, and my own favorite word, it means we need patience, but we also need accountability and action. And like, we have to show up for ourselves. And I think sometimes that's such a hard thing to do, especially when sometimes I think we go in like, oh, life sucks right now and I just want it to be better.
Mhm.
But then we get mad when that better is temporary.
Yeah.
And then we label it as failing. And I
Yeah.
think it's so hard to like get that message across of, look, this isn't like there's no magic pill. Like it
Mhm.
takes time to navigate this. Um, do you find that repeat sessions are really helpful when especially if it's like a really deep-seated thing? Or do you think maybe it's like, well, this was great and now there's a different thing?
Yeah, when I have because I offer like one-off sessions, but then like coaching package. And
Mm,
so when people kind of book a session, if they're working with someone else, then my hope is that they take it to like their therapist or their other coach or whatever the case is. Or maybe they've done so much healing work that they do a lot of stuff on their own. Then I feel like, okay, I can probably give you the tools and we can do this one session. You can keep going. You can come back when you need me. If someone doesn't have someone like that on the outside, then it's either talking about, okay, now what's next? Like when I do a session, I'll say, kind of, here are the themes, here are the things that I feel like would be helpful for you to work on. Here are some ways that maybe you could decide, like, is that with me? Is that with someone else? But it's really important that you continue. Otherwise, again, this will just be a one feel good session and
yeah.
then things will go back to the way they were.
I think that's such a beautiful, I love that you offer packages. I just
Mm-hmm.
think it's such a beautiful way to support people. And also, there's something about, this is going to sound so weird, but I learned this in my Thai massage practice.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about committing to yourself and like prepaying for it almost, where like, oh, well, since I've already paid for that and invested in it, well, now I'm going to show up. Whereas if you don't have that package opportunity, there's just such a human tendency to be like, meh, I'm going to spend my resources elsewhere. I'm going to spend my time. Like, I don't even mean money only. It's like time, effort, all of that. So I love that it's both, because sometimes people do just need a one session and that's all they have capacity for right now for whatever reason. And then other times it's like, I really am, it's time for a bigger shift. And then that means I need longer support. And I don't even know why I'm saying this other than it's probably being channeled. And I think it's just to say to the
Yeah.
listener, if you feel like it's time, take that preemptive commitment and
Mm-hmm.
go for a longer investment, whatever that means. Like whether,
Yeah.
everybody has their own way of offering a package or a way to work with them longer. But know that there's something about also like not doing it alone,
Mm-hmm.
and having that support. Like we need checks and balances. Our humanness will lie to us.
Yeah, I remind people all the time, like I have my own mentors and spiritual teachers and my own therapist. Like I have my own blind spots and I need someone to point them out, or I need space to be able to work through it. Or yeah, I can do a lot of different therapy or spiritual healings on myself, but sometimes it's harder to do or the hardest to do on myself. And so it's helpful when someone outside of me can do that or walk me through it.
Yeah, it's really hard to see your own patterns, like your own
Mhm.
programming or conditioning or whatever you want to call it, however
Mhm.
you describe that. But like the thing that you're stuck in, it's hard to see what that is for
Mhm.
yourself because it's a block for a reason. It's an
Mhm.
obstacle that's a challenge for a reason. Um,
Mhm.
I kind of want to circle back to your journey of just going against the grain and being
Mhm.
in the place of um, like, how did you support? I mean, was it really just did it truly just come from your internal compass and you just decided and you were good? Or, because I'm just thinking about so many people who really want to do that for and with themselves, but they just can't for whatever reason. And I mean, can't,
Mhm.
right? And so
Mhm.
something's missing. There's just like a piece of something that's missing. Do you have I don't know, insight to that of like, what does it look like when you're really stuck in whether it's fear or just maybe you haven't found support yet or whatever that is.
Yeah, it's been challenging. I think, I've heard this from my clients, but also people in my personal life. They just like admire that how much I'm able to be my authentic self. And I think it looks easy, but it
Yeah.
has not been the case. It was like a struggle fest. I mean, we go back to kind of the first major decision of being myself and living my truth of being queer. I mean, that was like almost a year in the closet, just like my mental health was really bad. Like I was in a very low place. And it kind of felt like I either had to decide of like if I was going to survive, I had to come out. That's kind of what it felt like. Otherwise, I just don't know that like I was going to be able to continue. So it didn't really feel like a choice, even though it was. Um, but it was for survival. And then it's just like one step in front of the other of like, okay, what's the next thing that I need to do? I didn't have like a roadmap or like, this is what it's going to look like to live my authentic self. And at that time when I was 16, like I didn't have a lot of like role models. There wasn't a lot of representation in the media. So I didn't have a way to know that I could have a good life being queer. I had internalized all these messages. I'd grown up in the Catholic Church. Like, I grew up in the 90s. So there just wasn't a lot of things that I could look at. I just knew for myself of like, this is my truth and I just have to do it to be happy, even though it didn't feel happy all the time. And then I think having a really good support system has made a difference, has made like a world of a difference of being able to have people in my life that like celebrate me, not just like tolerate me. And then that has helped like me do other things like coming to terms with my gender and the spiritual stuff. And I have to be willing to be honest with myself. That's been the hardest thing. And it's just been like a muscle that I've had to practice and build over and over and over again and strengthen of like, okay, Sam, what's this truth about yourself? Like, what are you running from? Like, let's look at it. What does it mean if that's true? And that's not easy.
No, that's really hard. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like maybe this isn't a fair statement. I feel like the first time you do that, every
Mm-hmm.
time after that gets easier to the
Mm-hmm.
point where I look forward to being in the muck. I mean, I don't love being in the muck, but I know the other side of it and it's worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I've created a truth for myself that that stuck place takes me somewhere good and it's
Mm-hmm.
only going to suck temporarily. It might be too long of a temporarily in my
Yeah.
preference, right? It always is too long in your preference, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's something about I've built the muscle to understand that the actions to get out of that are worth it. And when I look back, I'll be so grateful that I chose them. Do you find that?
Yeah.
Like once you do that first time, because it sounds like where you started is it was literally survival. It was do or die.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's how my journey started. I was just like, I can't keep going like this. I'm not okay. I'm just not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that meant there had to be healing. And I knew that meant I had to look at some stuff I didn't want to really look at all. Uh, but also staying where I was death for sure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
And I
know if
just got
everybody's
like,
journey starts that way, but
yeah, I got goosebumps when you were saying that kind of last part because I think a lot of people, that's what gets them to that point. There's this breaking point of like, I don't know that I can continue doing whatever it is that I'm doing, being this version of myself. And it's unfortunate that it has to get to that point. But I
yeah.
think sometimes, especially the first time, sometimes it does because it's so scary and it can feel so unsafe and so unknown to do something different. But you're right, like getting to the other side of it, it's worth it. And I've kept that in mind in anything that I've done. So like when I decided to be sober, I kept that in mind, again, the gender stuff, spiritual stuff, healing from different traumas. It's always like, this is going to suck during it. But when I get to the other side, like my relationships are better. I feel more free, more joy. I feel like I know who I am. I feel more grounded in my truth, more inner peace. Like I know what's worth it and what's on the other side. But the first time I tell my clients this, you're looking at a mountain and you're like, I've never climbed one. Do I even
Yeah.
have the right tools? And like, is the view even going to be good? Will I even make it to the top? And then I also hear like, what am I going to lose along the way? Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to lose these parts of myself, or like, what if I lose a relationship because I'm different? It's like, yeah, that could happen. But I think once you get to the other side, you're like, I'm kind of okay with that in some way.
Yeah, do you ever have those moments where I'll be in a pocket of time and I'll be like, dang, I feel ease is the word that comes in. Like this feels like
Mhm.
not easy, but I feel ease. I used to hate the word
Mhm.
content. I just found it boring and annoying and obnoxious. And now I'm like, ease and content? Heck yes, I'll choose that every day if I can find it, you know?
Mhm.
It's such a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, but it was something I never knew. I just didn't
Mhm.
understand what that even felt like or that it was possible for me. So I think it's a beautiful, I love, I love I love how you speak about your journey and
Mhm.
I love that you had support. What do you say to the people who like don't know what that looks and feels like?
I always remind people that you have support in spirit. When I was a kid, I used to do, and I still do this now, but with more awareness. When I was a kid, I used to just speak aloud, and it felt like I was talking to someone or multiple people, but I could never really name who that was. I just had a sense that I wasn't alone. Because in my childhood, I felt alone a lot of the time, and I didn't have like a lot of good like emotional support, and so that's kind of the way that I would get that. Um, and I also had this feeling like I was always being watched, but like more like looked out for. And so now
Protected.
I know it's like, yeah, I was never actually alone. So I try to remind people of like while you're working on building like human connections, you always have spiritual connections and also like animal pet connections.
Yeah.
Like those are also really important too. And as people heal, it can be easier to develop those human relationships.
Yeah. I think, did you find a lot of fear on your journey of just of the healing and you spoke of it a
Mhm.
little bit, like the fear of like, what if I
Yeah.
lose people or what if I lose relationships or what if I lose pieces of myself?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, the coming out as queer, like I was like terrified. It took me so long, took me many years to like not have like feeling like I was going to die every time I came out. Like it was just so scary because this idea and what we see in society is like you could lose everyone. You could lose
Mhm.
your parents, your family, your loved ones. And so that was scary. And I think getting through that, and I'm not saying that every coming out experience like went well for me. Um, I think people assume that now because I'm so out, but I think people forget about the beginning parts of your healing journey is like it's rough and is scary. And even when later in my life when I decided to cut my hair after I got married, it was like a big decision. I was like I really feel like I want to try this out. I've always wanted to try out shorter hair since I was a little kid, but I'm too afraid. Am I going to be seen as attractive and desirable? What are people going to think? What if it doesn't look good on me? And I just had to do it. Sometimes you just have to do the thing, even though there's so much fear. So I think people sometimes like don't realize how much fear that I carry, even though I talk about it, because like, but you do the thing. And it's like, well, yeah, I don't get to a place where I'm like, I feel good. And then I do the thing. Just like do it anyways.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, most of the time when you're taking a big action like that, and for yourself, I mean, this is for
Mm-hmm.
you. It's not for anybody else. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it affects the other people in a positive way. I believe in that ripple effect, like beyond measure. I think it's crazy how far out it goes and how much it
Mm-hmm.
impacts other people around you. And then the ones who like aren't resonating with it, they fall off on some in some way. And I find that it's never comfortable or easy in the moment, but it's always that I think that's why I get to that place of ease. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's not so hard anymore because I don't have the resistance all the time,
Yeah.
and that's a beautiful thing. I think I was talking about fear and it just went away. It came out and came in and went out.
Well, I think the other thing that I'll also add is I hope that people can like look at myself and my journey and know that like it's possible to be your authentic self even with resistance because it's like, yeah, I'm not saying that being myself out in the world isn't scary or that doesn't have major consequences. Like it's not necessarily safe for me to be who I am out in the world. But so it's an active choice that I make day in and day out to be like, no, I'm going to do this anyways. And there are times that maybe I'll be a little like quieter version of myself. And I don't see that as self-abandonment. I see that as self-protection.
Mm.
And that's what I need to be safe. And so I try to reframe that because I think sometimes people think of if I'm choosing in this space to be a little bit quieter, these parts of myself, then somehow that's abandoning myself. Sometimes that's true, and sometimes like that's not true. That's actually for yourself.
Yeah, it's an intentional choice. I think there's so
Mm-hmm.
much wisdom in that.
Mm-hmm.
I think earlier on my journey, I did that same thing. It's like, oh, nobody can know that I'm intuitive. Nobody can know that I,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I mean, it was a lot of that sort of like, I'm keeping that hidden. And I used to really kind of beat myself up about that. I used to be really sad that I was doing that. But at that
Mm-hmm.
time, it was coming from a place, it wasn't coming from a wise place.
Mm-hmm.
It was coming from a fearful place. And
Mm-hmm.
now I enter rooms and I don't enter every room going, hey, anybody want tarot readings? It's like some rooms, it's like, no,
Yeah.
your audience, that situational awareness, that's literally my wise old crone going, oh, here's some
Mm.
wisdom for you. Boop, don't do that here. And it's not because, but it's also like, I feel like it's like this, it's kindness. I'm not trying to force that part of me. Like
Mm-hmm.
people don't have to accept that part of me. It doesn't have to be for them, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And sometimes it still works to be in a room together and actually have friendships. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think once I started going down the journey of I accept me for who I am and I accept others for who they are, because I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to control my external world to make my internal world feel safe anymore, that
Mm-hmm.
changed everything. And I feel like that's kind of what you just described is like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm going into this space and it's not necessarily, I don't need to be all of me all out right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can choose which parts of me I want to show up forward. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not a disservice to myself or a disgrace to myself. And it's not because I don't love myself, it's because
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, that shame love piece is so important. Am I doing this out of shame or am I doing this out of love for myself? Because if I'm doing it out of shame and hiding it, then I might want to look at that.
Yeah. It's such a complicated, I mean, healing is such a, on the one hand, on the human ego brain, like it's such a complicated thing. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you have those pockets of like, oh, I'm in spiritual like space right now, it really
Yeah.
isn't. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But and then you braid the two together and it's just it's complicated, it's messy, and it's beautiful all at the same time. I really appreciate you sharing your journey. I feel like there's so much just support in how you speak about it,
Mm-hmm.
and also inspiration and hope. I hear a lot of hope.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just because I'm on my own healing journey and I'm far enough into it that it sounds like hope to me. But I'm just hoping, like, as a listener, if you're not feeling inspiration or hope, maybe this just isn't for you, this podcast. But know that there's something out there for you that will support you. And you currently have it inside you right now. It's just that perhaps you haven't looked there because, like, for me, I was so focused on the external. I so
Mm-hmm.
wanted my external to get better, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that the only way that would happen is if I worked on my internal. I just didn't see the
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah, we can only control our externals enough. And then, I have people that be like, well, if I just moved or if I change this relationship, things will get better. And it's like there's some situations that like, yes. And this issue will still pop up in a new relationship, just with a different person, or you move there, like you're bringing all your stuff with you to the new location. It's not like you're a new person in that location. So yeah, our internal work is where it needs to happen. And yeah, I think hope is a really great way to phrase it. I've had people directly ask me, do you think that this could be different for me? Like, do you think that this could be better? And I think one of the things that I find is such a gift to myself and the work that I do is like, because I've done a lot of my own work, I can say like, yes, because like I've been where you've been. I've had some of these issues that you've had. I know that it can get better. I can't guarantee or make any promises, but through my own journey and through working with others, like I know that things are possible.
Yeah. I love phrases like what if and consider the possibility. Like, can you
Mm-hmm.
just consider the possibility that fill in the blank, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And what if we explored this? Like, what if is curiosity to me? It can even be
Mm-hmm.
playfulness, you know? And I just think when I was stuck in the suck of the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I forgot how to be playful. I forgot how to be curious. And my nature is playful. I mean, I taught preschool for a long time. I'm like, I'm a playful weirdo. You know what I mean? And I love that. But when
Yeah,
I'm
the
stuck,
energy
I
comes
can't
through.
find it.
Yeah, I appreciate that about you, that you have that kind of like lovely, like bright energy.
Yeah, thank you. It's not always forward, and it used to never be forward. It was only anger. That was how I showed up.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like the layers of it is like I was doing it to myself, and I was mad at myself for losing it and not
Mm-hmm.
finding it again. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that then,
Yeah.
but I definitely was keeping that from myself for probably a million different reasons, right? We could go
Mm-hmm.
into a whole nother thing of self-worth and all those
Yeah.
bits. But I just think this is a good place to land and saying, if you're listening and this resonates, I want to make sure people know how to find you. I want to make sure I put links in the show notes. Do you have a quick and easy way to find you that we can just say out loud too? Not everybody likes to read.
Yeah. Yeah. My website, samintuitivecoach.com. And then on social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all my handles are Sam Intuitive Coach.
Okay, beautiful. That's easy. Normal spellings, nothing, nothing, nothing tricky about it.
Yeah, as long as you can spell intuitive, I have to
Yeah.
regularly check myself when I spell that.
Oh, my fingers type backwards those letters sometimes. It's like, and thankful for autocorrect. And then every now and again, it's like, oh dear. It's like, and the number of times I spell mediation instead of meditation, I'm like, those are two very different things.
Yeah, different
That's
vibe,
not what I
different
meant.
energy. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Do you have a last little bit of whether it be hope or wisdom or support or anything that you want to share before we wrap it up?
Well, something that I was just like came to me as I was thinking about kind of this how your podcast is about like living intentionally, right? Like how do we do things with intention? Um, it came to me about like how that's connected to our values. I tell a lot of people like if you live as close to your values as possible, I think that creates a lot of wellness. It's not always easy, especially in today's world, but um, I try to always come back to why am I doing things, especially when they're hard. Like when it's easy and it feels great, that's fine. Like I'll do that stuff all day. But
Yeah,
when it's stuff of like I don't really want to do that, but I kind of need to like live in this world, or I don't really want to do that because that's going to be hard and scary. I always try to come back to my values and say like what's important to me, and then keep that in mind as I do it.
that's beautiful. Do you know what I just realized when you said that? Sam, we forgot to set an intention at the beginning of the podcast. Are we wrapping? I was so excited to talk to you. I was just like, Sam, we're dropping in. I love your energy.
Yeah.
You just feel so refreshing to me. I just really, really enjoy how you show up in the world. And I'm so grateful that we were connected through Amber. Shout out to Amber Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
Nice work.
Yeah, she's great.
She's so good. Uh, should we set an intention now?
Sure. Do I just
Do you
say
have
whatever
one in
comes to
mind?
mind? How do we do
Yeah,
that?
go for it.
Um, I think it just keeps coming back to like doing things that feel so important to you, that come from a place of love.
Mm.
Because I think when we move from a place of love, like there's just so much goodness, like self-love just like reverberates outward. And then it also leads to connection, right? Like this great conversation. Um, so much goodness can come from love. So just trying to lead from that.
Lead from love. I love it. That's a great intention. That feels
Mhm.
like a perfect way to wrap up. Thank you so
Mhm.
much, Sam. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
your
you.
time today and I loved
Yeah,
our
this was great.
conversation. You are welcome back anytime.
Yeah. I always love to chat and this was lovely. So be happy to chat with you anytime.